In Cherokee County, the fine for speeding is $17 for each mile per hour the driver is traveling over the posted speed limit. In Cherokee County, Kirk was fined $221 for speeding on a road with a posted speed limit of 30 miles per hour. Kirk was fined for traveling at what speed in miles per hour. So we know that it's $70 for each mile per hour. So if I divide the fine that he had is 221, divide that by 17, which will become 13, right? So it means he was 13 mile per hour above the speed limit. So he was traveling at 13 plus 30, which is 43. H. What is the sum of the solution of the two equations below? Alright, so we want to find the solutions and then add them. Solution to this one is x equal 12 over 8. Divide them by 4, which is 3 over 2, 1.5. For this one is 2y equals, subtract 10 from both sides of the equation, so it's basically 22 minus 10, and this one 10 will cancel out. 12, 2y, y becomes 6, 6 plus 1.5, so 7.5. Number 14. The average of 5 distinct scores has the same value as the median of the 5 scores. The sum of the 5 scores is 420. What is the sum of the 4 scores that are not the median? So what does that mean? What is the median? Median is the number, the middle number, that half of the data is above and half of the other data is below. So because we have 5 number, let's say we show it x1, x2, x3, x4, and x5, right? So x3 is median. It goes from lower to higher, right? All right, so now it says this x3 is basically same as the average of all of them, right? x3 is same as the average. How do we find the average? We can find the average by adding all of these numbers divided by the number of the numbers. So we have 5 numbers, right? So add them all together, divide them by 5. Now we have the sum of the 5 scores. So we have the adding them. So it's already been added for us. We know the sum of them is 420. So if I divide 420 by 5, it gives me the average. It's this 420 is basically x1 plus x2, x3, x4, and x5. So the answer to this one is 8, then 84. So 84 is the average. Now we know x3 is 84 because it says the median is same as the average. There we go. So we got the x3. Now, question is, what is the sum of the 4 scores that are not the median? So it means that what is the sum of these two and these two together? So basically, if we just have the sum of the whole thing minus this median, which is equal to average, we can get the sum of them. So we have the sum of the whole thing is 420. We know x3 is 84, so minus 84. So then we can find sum of x1, x2, x4, and x5. It's equal to 6 here, so it's basically 336. What is the value of the expression below? Alright, so we see this is the absolute value. The first thing you'll notice here is that the whole thing is in the absolute value. So definitely A and B are not the answer because they're negative. Nothing negative will come out of the absolute value, alright? So then I start solving. Minus 8 plus 4 is minus 4 inside the absolute value, minus 3 minus 9, which is minus 6 inside the absolute value, and the whole thing is again inside the absolute value. So because minus 4 is inside the absolute value, it comes out as positive 4. Because minus 6 is inside, it comes out as 6. Now we have a minus in between, so put the minus between. 4 minus 6 is minus 2 inside the absolute value, so plus 2 comes out. D. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to x to the power of 2 over 3? One thing we should know about this question, one thing that we should know in order to solve the question is basically knowing that we can write a radical in form of power. So if you have a radical with the index of 5, and like let's say here you have 2, you can write it as 2 to the power of 1 over 5. Or let's say if you have 6 to the power of 2 under the radical with the index of 8, you can write it as 6 to the power of 2 over 8, because 2 will go to the numerator. This always going to become reciprocate and times the power of the number inside the radical. So 8 becomes 1 over 8 times 2, become 2 over 8, and goes to the power. 2 over 8 will become 6 to the power of 1 over 4. We can simplify them, right? So knowing this, we can also go from the other way around. We can
in the standard xy coordinate plane, what is the slope of the line
radical? Now we have
given
x
by
to the power
this
of 2 over 3.
All right, so we know the slope of a line when we have equation in the format of y equal mx plus c.
So x
is m. M is the
but 2 will stay
slope of a line. So we just need to make this look like this. So now we have 4x equals 7y plus 5. So from here, I isolate y. So I put y in this, stay here. I subtract 5 from both sides of the equation. So 4x minus 5. Then I divide both sides of the equation by 7. 4 over 7, x minus 5 over 7. So the coefficient of the x is the slope, 4 over 7. So the point is y should be isolated in one side of the equation. It doesn't matter if it's left or right. As long as it's one side, we're done. So here it's on this side. And when that happens, then the coefficient of the x is a slope. All right. For which of the following conditions will the sum of the integers m and n always be an odd integer? M is an odd integer. N is an odd integer. M and n are both odd integers. M and n are both even integers. M is an odd integer and n is an even integers. So we want to find when sum of m plus n is odd. Even numbers are, just to remind you, 2, 4, 8, like 6. And odd numbers are 1, 3, and so on. It's easy. We can just give it an example. We start with, let's say, m is an odd integer. Because the restriction is only on the m, let's say m is 1. So n, because there is no restriction on n, right? It doesn't say anything about n. So n could be odd or even. So let's say if n is odd, right? So let's say n is 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 is even number, not an odd number. So we want the answer to be odd. So f is not the answer. G. N is an odd integer. So basically, this is the same situation, just m and n are different. So G is not the answer too. M and n are both odd integers. So if both of them are odd, so we just tried that. 1 and 3. It gives me an even integer. Add them. So H is not the answer. M and n are both even. Alright, so let's see if that's the answer. So let's say m is 2, n is 4. It is 6. So it give me an even integer. Even plus even is even. So it's not the answer. K. M is an odd integer, N is an even integer. Alright. So let's say 2 plus 3, for example, is 5. Or let's give it 1 plus 6. 1 is odd, 1 is even. It's 7. So you see, it always gives me an odd answer. K is the answer. The length of the two legs of the right triangle ABC shown below are given in inches. The midpoint of AB is how many inches from A? So midpoint of AB, how many inches from A? So it means find AB divided by 2, right? It's the same thing because it's a midpoint. So both sides are the same, so you can just divide it. Alright, so how can I find AB? Pythagorean theorem. 32 squared plus 24 squared equals AB squared. So in this case, you can use your calculator. 32 times 32 is 124, and 24 times 24 is 576. So 576 plus 1024 is 1600. Square root of this is 40. So midpoint is 40 divided by 2. So it's 20. So this part is 20. B.
In DEF triangle, the length of DE is root 30 inches and the length of EF is 3 inches. If it can be determined, what is the length in inches of DF? Well, basically in this triangle, we have only two known factor. The length of DE, which is root 30, the length of EF, which is 3. Now, if we had this angle, we could find DF, right? Using cosine law. If it says it's a right triangle, then we could find DF. But because we do not have this information, we just have two lengths, we cannot determine the third side. Alright? 21. Laura plans to paint a 8-foot high rectangular wall of her room, and before she buys paint, she needs to know the area of the wall surface to be painted. Two walls are 10 feet wide, and the other two walls are 15 feet wide. The combined area of the one window and the one door in her room is 60 square feet. What is the area in square feet of the wall surface Laura plans to paint? So we know it's 8 foot high, right? So just very quick, so let's measure it as cube, right? So we have one side, two side, sorry, that's actually ceiling. One side, two side, a third side is in here, we don't see it, and the fourth side is here. So two of them has 10 feet wide, so 10 times 8, 8 is the height. So let's say if it's 10, that's 8, and this is 15. So because we have two of them, times 2 plus 15 times 8 times 2. Alright, so it's 160. This one is 240. Then, yes, just make sure that's true. Okay, 240 and 160. If we add them together, we get 400. Now, because we have a window and a door, and both together are 60 square feet, so minus 60, it becomes 340.